What's going on, everybody? I'm Jay Ray. Today I'm out here next to my 2000 Jeep Wrangler TJ, and what I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to be installing 12-port injectors from KSuspension into this Jeep, and then we'll test them out. So this particular Jeep has a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder engine. It's got a 5-speed manual transmission, and in order to try to get a little bit better power and performance out of this, I'm going to try these KSuspension 12-port injectors. So we're going to get started here in just a minute. First thing that we're going to have to do is take off the airbox. I've got this 5/16 socket on a little impactor gun, and we're just going to start by removing this, loosening the straps here. Loosen the strap under here on the throttle body. And then hopefully we can lift that plenum out of the way. We also got to loosen the strap here. Move this hose, and there's a couple bolts that are holding this airplane down to the engine. Set that to the side. Hose from the PCV valve, you got to remove from the airplane here. Wiggle it back and forth, and it should pop off. Alright, now we got the fuel rail down here, and what we're going to have to do is get this fuel rail out of the way so we can get those injectors out. I'm going to start by disconnecting the connectors on these injectors. Just got to squeeze tabs on the side and you pull them straight off. Got those all loose. There's a couple bolts that hold this fuel rail in place. There's one down here, two on this bracket for the throttle cable, and then one over here as well by the last fuel injector. I had to get a 10mm socket to fit these bolts here. We'll go ahead and try to get them pulled out. Pull this bracket out of the way that has the throttle cable on it. See if we can get this fuel rail lifted off of there. Okay, so there's two more bolts that hold this fuel rail in place, one at the front side and one at the back side of the fuel rail, and those require a 13mm socket. Might have to get a deep socket for that back one. Yep, a deep socket worked pretty good. Got that back one removed. Now let's see if we can get this fuel rail off. Of course, this is a 2000 model, so I think these are the factory fuel injectors. This Jeep only has 71,000 miles on it at this time, so these have probably been in here for 19 years. I'm gonna try to wiggle it and see if I can get this to come out. There it is, it's out. And we got some little clips that hold in these injectors onto the fuel rail, so I'm going to see if I can get these pried off. Probably going to have to get a little screwdriver and pry these tabs open so that we can get the injector out. Alright, so I got a screwdriver, so I'm going to just pry these little tabs off, see if we can get the injector loose so we can pull them out. Make sure you don't lose these little clips, because you're going to need them to install the new fuel injectors to make sure that they stay in place. Then we should be able to just pull the old injector out. It's going to be tight because it's got O-rings on there to help seal it up. But if you just wiggle it back and forth and put some tension on it, it should come out. There we have an old injector. Got one out, and I'm going to get the other three out. Now that I got the old injectors out, I want to show you the difference between the old injector and the new one that I'm putting in. This is a single port injector right here. Might be difficult to see, but it's only got one hole in the center of this injector, and that's where the fuel comes into the engine. And this is the new KSuspension 12-port injector. As you can see there, it's got it's kind of hard to see, but it's got several holes in that end of that injector there. It's actually got 12 of them. That's why it's called a 12-port injector. And this is supposed to atomize the fuel better and help the engine to run a little bit smoother, and not really increase power or anything, but it could potentially get a little bit better fuel economy by using these new injectors. We'll have a review on that after we get these installed and start driving the Jeep. So to start the installation process, we're going to do the exact opposite of what we just did to pull out the old ones. We'll start by putting the new fuel injector into the fuel rail, pushing that in firmly, trying to get it in place. Once we got that in place, I'm going to install the little clip to hold it there. It also helps us to ensure that we have our injector in far enough to the fuel rail that it won't come out. It's in the proper alignment. I'm going to do this to the other three injectors and get them installed. Now I'm going to start bolting everything back together. Bolt the fuel rail down first, and then put the brackets back on there. Bolt everything back together, and then we'll put the air plumbing back on. But before we put the air plumbing back on, we want to start the engine up and inspect and make sure that there's no leaks. I didn't see any leaks on this engine, so I'm going to go ahead and start putting everything else back together. Now the only thing left to do, since we got this together, is to close the hood, take it for a test drive. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and start the Jeep up. This is going to be a cold start. It's been sitting for a couple days, haven't driven it. So, I got the new injectors in here. Let's give it a try. Start it right up. Go ahead and take this thing for a ride. I have driven it a couple times since I've put these injectors in, and it's done pretty good for me. I can say it does seem like the engine runs a little bit smoother. Can't say the same for the shocks, but I apologize for this video being a little shaky. But I do have to say these injectors, there's not a whole lot of difference from the original factory injectors that I can tell, except the engine does seem to be a little bit smoother and maybe a little bit quieter when it's running. I had my wife in here with me one day after I put the new injectors in, and even she said that it seemed to be a little bit smoother of a ride. So going on, all in all, I do have to say I think the injectors are pretty well, but I don't really know what the fuel economy is going to be yet because I haven't driven it enough to really give that a test. I know it's been a while, but overall, I do say that these injectors are doing pretty well. Jeep starts right up every time. You know, runs. It seems to have a little bit better power when I'm driving, but there's still this Jeep just from the factory doesn't have much power, so there's not a whole lot that I can expect in performance just by changing injectors out. I mean, come with 135 horsepower, I believe, from the factory. That's just not real great when you're driving along. I do have different gears on this. I've got 488s, but I still lose speed when I'm going up hills. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please like this video, and if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you on my next video.